I had spent weeks planning the perfect surprise. It was our 10th wedding anniversary and I wanted to remind Jake of the love we had built over the years. Marriage wasn't always easy, but I had always believed we were in this together. Through the ups and downs, the late nights at work, the struggles of building a life from scratch, we had made it. Or at least that's what I thought. I had booked a luxury weekend getaway at an exclusive hotel, one that Jake had always wanted to visit but never had the time for. Everything was set. A private candlelit dinner, a suite with a breathtaking ocean view, and a personalized itinerary filled with all the things he loved. It was meant to be a weekend where we could reconnect, away from the distractions of everyday life. Before we dive in, I want to thank each of you for being part of this journey. If you love stories of karma, justice, and taking back your power, make sure to subscribe. It's completely free and helps us bring you even more compelling stories. Now let's get into it. The day of our anniversary, I was buzzing with excitement. I had told Jake that I would be busy with work that evening, making him believe that our celebration would happen later. In reality, I was hours ahead of him, arriving early to set up the surprise. I wanted to see the look on his face when he walked into our suite and realized just how much I had done to make this night special. But nothing could have prepared me for what I was about to witness. As I stood at the check-in counter confirming our reservation, I heard a familiar laugh, a deep, careless chuckle that sent chills down my spine. I turned instinctively, my heart pounding in anticipation. And there he was, Jake. But he wasn't alone. Standing next to him was a woman I had never seen before, her hand casually resting on his arm as they approached the counter together. She was younger, effortlessly beautiful, and completely at ease, like she belonged there. Like she belonged with him. My stomach dropped. My mind refused to process what my eyes were seeing. I had spent years reading Jake's expressions, understanding his subtle tells. But there was nothing subtle about this. He looked happy, relaxed, like a man completely free of guilt. I wanted to believe it was a mistake. That maybe she was a colleague, a client, someone from work. But then he did something that crushed that fragile hope into dust. He leaned in and kissed her. Not a hesitant, accidental brush. Not the kind of gesture that could be misinterpreted. It was intimate, deliberate. The kind of kiss a man gives a woman he desires. A woman he loves. The air around me grew thick, suffocating. My vision blurred, but I forced myself to stay still. To process. To understand. Because if I moved, if I reacted too quickly, I might shatter into a million pieces. The woman giggled, whispering something in his ear. He smirked, nodding as he reached for the hotel key card. And then, as if sensing my presence, he looked up. Our eyes met. For a split second, a flicker of something flashed across his face. Surprise. Panic. But then just as quickly it disappeared. His expression shifted into something far worse. Amusement. He smiled. Then, with a casual shrug, he uttered the words that would haunt me for the rest of my life. You can't do anything about it. The world around me fell silent. The hotel lobby, the chatter of guests, the soft hum of music. It all faded into the background. All I could hear was the deafening sound of my own heart breaking. I had spent 10 years building a life with this man. I had loved him with every fiber of my being. And here he was looking at me like I was nothing. Like I was a joke. Like I was powerless. He turned away effortlessly, dismissing me as if I were a mere inconvenience. A forgotten piece of his past. He walked away, laughing with her, disappearing down the hallway as if I didn't exist. I stood frozen, my fingers gripping the edge of the check-in counter so tightly that my knuckles turned white. I wanted to scream. I wanted to chase after him, to demand an explanation, to make him feel the pain he had just inflicted on me. But I didn't. Because in that moment, as the weight of betrayal settled deep into my bones, something inside me shifted. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to cry in front of him. I wasn't going to give him the satisfaction of seeing me break. No. Jake thought I couldn't do anything about it. He was wrong. Very, very wrong. The receptionist cleared her throat hesitantly, pulling me out of my trance. "Ma'am, would you still like to proceed with your reservation?" she asked, her voice laced with concern. I turned to her slowly, forcing a polite smile as I picked up the room key. "Yes," I said, my voice steady. "Absolutely. But this wasn't going to be the weekend I had planned. This was going to be something else entirely." I walked toward the elevator, my mind no longer clouded by grief. My hands no longer trembling with shock. No, this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Jake had no idea what was coming. And when it hit him, he wouldn't be laughing anymore. The elevator doors slid shut with a soft chime, enclosing me in a space that felt suffocating yet eerily silent. I gripped the hotel key card, my fingers pressing into the smooth plastic as if it were the only thing grounding me in reality. Jake's words still echoed in my mind. You can't do anything about it. The audacity. The sheer arrogance of it. He had dismissed me like I was an afterthought, like a worn-out piece of furniture he had outgrown. But I wasn't just some abandoned relic of his past. I was his wife. The woman who had stood by his side when he had nothing. The woman who had sacrificed her dreams so he could chase his. And now I was just disposable? The elevator dinged, pulling me out of my spiraling thoughts. I stepped out, my heels clicking against the marble hallway as I made my way to my suite. The door swung open smoothly, revealing the room I had spent so much effort preparing. The champagne sat chilling in a silver bucket, condensation pooling at its base. The soft glow of candlelight reflected off the pristine white linens of the king-sized bed. The scent of fresh roses filled the air. A scent I had chosen specifically because Jake once told me it reminded him of the early days of our relationship. The weight of my reality settled deep into my bones. This wasn't a celebration anymore. This was a monument to my humiliation. I walked over to the table, staring at the carefully arranged dinner setup. The delicate china, the neatly folded napkins, the engraved silverware. Every detail screamed of a woman hopelessly in love. But that woman no longer existed. I picked up the champagne bottle, my grip tightening around its neck. For a moment I considered throwing it, watching it shatter against the wall, mirroring the wreckage of my trust. But then I stopped. Oh, that would be too easy. Destroying things wouldn't fix anything. It wouldn't erase the betrayal or undo the damage. If I wanted to reclaim my power, I had to do something better. Something that would truly make Jake understand what he had lost. I took a deep breath, my mind working through the endless possibilities. I had spent years inside Jake's world. I knew his habits, his secrets, his weaknesses. If he thought I couldn't do anything about this, he had underestimated me in the worst way possible. I walked over to the bedside table and picked up my phone. My fingers moved with a steady determination as I scrolled through my contacts. My best friend Samantha had always warned me about Jake's distant behavior over the past year. She had sensed something was off, but I had refused to see it. Now I needed her. The phone barely rang twice before she answered. Emily? What's wrong? I swallowed, forcing my voice to remain steady. I need you to help me with something. Pause. Then a quiet but firm, tell me everything. And so I did. Every word poured out like venom, each revelation stoking the fire inside me. Samantha listened without interrupting, but I could hear her breathing shift, anger simmering just beneath the surface. That absolute. She cut herself off, exhaling sharply. Hey, what do you need? I glanced around the room, my mind assembling the pieces of a plan that had only just begun to form. I need to know everything about the woman he's with. I'm on it, she said immediately. Do you have anything to go off of? Picture. I hesitated, then an idea struck me. My hotel room was connected to Jake's through the suite next door. The walls were thin enough to hear muffled conversations. If I played my cards right, I could get exactly what I needed. I'll get you her name soon, I promised. Hanging up, I walked toward the connecting door. I pressed my ear against it, heart pounding as I strained to hear the voices on the other side. At first, just the indistinct murmur of conversation. But then, a laugh. Her laugh. It was light, melodic, carefree in a way that made my stomach turn. I clenched my jaw, focusing on the words that followed. I can't believe we got away with it for this long, she said, amusement lacing her tone. Jake's response was smug. She's too naive to ever figure it out. And even if she did, what could she possibly do? Walk away? He laughed. She wouldn't last a month without me. My entire body went cold. It wasn't just an affair. It wasn't just a mistake. This was something he had been orchestrating for a long time, fully aware of what he was doing. And he thought I was too weak to leave him? That was the moment I decided, knew, that I wasn't just going to walk away. I was going to make him feel the depth of this betrayal. I was going to make him lose everything. With calculated patience, I took a deep breath and stepped back. This wasn't the time for impulsive decisions. This was the time for precision. I pulled up my phone, opening the Notes app. I typed, "Find out who she is, Samantha's task. Secure financial records." Jake had never handled our money, assuming I was too detail-oriented for him to bother. Expose him at the right time. Public humiliation wasn't just satisfying, it was necessary. This wasn't about revenge alone. It was about justice. I glanced back at the untouched dinner, the roses, the flickering candlelight. The old Emily, the one who had booked this trip with hope and love in her heart, was gone. In her place stood a woman who was about to show Jake exactly what happened when you underestimated the wrong person. And this was just the beginning. I stared at the untouched dinner, the delicate flicker of candlelight casting soft shadows against the white tablecloth. Just hours ago, I had envisioned this evening as a celebration. A moment of reconnection, a rekindling of the love I believed still existed between us. Now that illusion lay shattered at my feet, replaced by a cold, calculating rage I had never felt before. Jake thought I couldn't do anything about it. That arrogance, that dismissive smirk. It wasn't just cruelty. It was certainty. He had no doubt in his mind that I would fold, that I would cry in silence, that I would disappear into the background while he continued his charade. But he didn't know me. Not really. I had spent years shaping my life around him, molding myself into the wife he needed, sacrificing my wants to make his dreams a reality. But tonight something inside me cracked. And from those broken pieces something new emerged. I wasn't going to be the woman who walked away quietly. I was going to be the storm he never saw coming. I grabbed my phone, my fingers moving swiftly as I typed out a message to Samantha. I need everything you can find on her. Name, background, job, everything. 3 dots appeared almost instantly. Samantha, already ahead of you. Found her on social media. Sending screenshots. Within seconds my screen filled with images. Her name was Lena Carter. She worked in marketing, freelance, nothing stable. Her profile was filled with filtered selfies, posts about self-love and manifesting abundance. All while she flaunted expensive trips and designer handbags. I clenched my jaw. I knew Jake. He had a type, women who made him feel powerful, who depended on him. He was drawn to the illusion of control, to the idea that he was someone's savior. I scrolled further. Then I saw it. A picture posted just a few weeks ago. Lena at an upscale restaurant holding a champagne glass with manicured fingers, the caption reading, "To secret love and stolen moments. Hashtag the good life." The same restaurant Jake had claimed he had a work dinner at that night. A fresh wave of anger surged through me, but I forced myself to breathe. Anger wouldn't win this war. Strategy would. I clicked on her tagged photos, searching for anything that could be useful. And then I saw something that made my pulse quicken. A candid shot of Lena and Jake, taken at a beach resort last month. He had told me he was on a last-minute work trip. My fingers curled into a fist. I had enough to confront him, to throw the truth in his face and watch the panic settle in his eyes. But that wasn't good enough. He had humiliated me in public, stripped me of my dignity without a second thought. A simple confrontation wouldn't be enough. I wanted him to experience exactly what it felt like to be blindsided. I needed a plan. A grand, calculated, irrefutable revenge. I opened my email and scrolled through the contacts until I found what I was looking for. Jake's boss. He had always been reckless, too confident in his ability to keep things hidden. He bragged about how his company saw him as indispensable, how they would never question where he went or how he handled accounts. A dangerous assumption. I crafted a message carefully, attaching screenshots, reservation details, and timestamps. The subject line? Urgent. Confidential information regarding Jake Miller. I didn't press send. Not yet. Timing was everything. Next, I scrolled through our joint accounts. Jake had always been careless about finances, leaving the details to me because it wasn't his thing. I knew where the money was, where it went, and, most importantly, what he didn't want anyone else to see. And there was a recurring Venmo payment to Lena. Small amounts, spread over months. Never enough to raise suspicion but consistent enough to show intent. I smirked. He was funding her lifestyle, keeping her entertained while I worked late nights to manage our home. I screenshot everything. And then for the final piece I called the hotel front desk. "Hi," I said sweetly, "I just wanted to confirm something. My husband, Jake Miller, checked in earlier today. Could you tell me under what name the reservation was made? A brief pause, the sound of keyboard clicking, and then, it's under Lena Carter. The confirmation I needed. My chest tightened, not with pain but with anticipation. The game had officially begun. I hung up and exhaled slowly. This wasn't just about revenge. It was about taking back the power he had stripped from me. Samantha's next message flashed on my screen. Samantha, you could. Me, oh, I'm better than good. I'm just getting started. I knew exactly what I was going to do. Jake had given me a gift without realizing it. His betrayal wasn't just an ending, it was an opportunity. And when the moment was right, when the world saw exactly who he was, he wouldn't just lose me. He'd lose everything. The weight of my plan settled in, but instead of fear I felt something new. A quiet, burning satisfaction. Every piece of the puzzle was coming together, aligning perfectly like it was meant to be. Jake had spent years deceiving me, confident that I would always remain the loyal, trusting wife who would never question him. But now he had no idea what was coming. I paced the room, my mind racing with the final details. The screenshots of his affair, the money transfers to Lena, the hotel reservation under her name. Each was a weapon, sharp and ready to strike. But I couldn't just fire blindly. I needed precision. A mere confrontation wouldn't be enough. A dramatic slap, screaming in the hotel lobby. Those things would make a scene, sure. But Jake would recover. He'd twist the narrative, paint me as the crazy wife who couldn't handle the truth. No, I needed something undeniable. Something that would destroy not just his relationship but his entire foundation. I picked up my phone, dialing Samantha. She answered before the first ring even finished. Tell me you have a plan, she said, her voice sharp with anticipation. Oh, I have more than a plan, I replied. I have a masterpiece. I laid it all out for her. The email to his boss, the financial evidence, the carefully planned public exposure. Every step was designed not just to hurt Jake but to leave no escape. She let out a low whistle. Damn. You're terrifying when you're like this. I smiled. Good. Because that was exactly what I needed to be. Step 1. The financial takedown. I logged into our joint bank account, my fingers moving steadily over the keyboard. Over the years, Jake had relied on me to manage our finances, always too distracted with his ego to pay attention. Now that negligence was about to cost him. I transferred my rightful half to a separate account, one he had no access to. Final. The remaining balance? I left it there just enough for him to believe nothing was wrong until it was too late. Then I pulled up our shared credit card statements. The evidence was already in my hands. Lena's shopping sprees, their expensive getaways, the overpriced dinners Jake had once claimed were work meetings. I compiled every single charge, creating an airtight document that painted a crystal-clear picture of his deception. Step 2. The public exposure. The hotel was hosting a gala dinner that night, one that Jake had RSVP'd for under the assumption that I wouldn't be there. He and Lena would be parading themselves around, confident in their secrecy. They had no idea I was about to turn their grand evening into a public disaster. Samantha, ever the genius, had already secured a live stream setup through a mutual friend who worked in media. The plan was simple. The moment Jake made his grand entrance with Lena on his arm, the evidence would be displayed on the event's main screen. Screenshots of their messages. Bank statements proving he had been funding her lifestyle with our money. Pictures of their vacations, the same ones he had lied about. And the final blow, a voice recording of him laughing at my expense. Step 3. The career collapse. Jake always boasted about his impeccable reputation at work. He was a rising star, the one his boss saw as future executive material. Which is why I knew the truth would be his undoing. Before the gala began, I hit send on the email to his company's higher-ups. It wasn't just an emotional complaint. It was cold, hard evidence of workplace misconduct. Expensed dinners for Lena, fabricated business trips, stolen company resources. The type of exposure that would blacklist him from his entire industry. He wouldn't just lose his job. He would lose his future. The moment of reckoning. The gala was already buzzing with energy when I walked in. My dress, a sleek midnight blue number that I had bought for this very night, hugged my frame perfectly. If Jake had expected me to be shattered, broken, or begging, he was in for a rude awakening. I spotted him instantly. He was laughing, a glass of whiskey in hand, his arm around Lena's waist as they chatted with his colleagues. He looked so comfortable. So smug. That arrogance lasted exactly 10 more seconds. Then the main event began. The projector screen flickered to life, and the room fell silent as the first image appeared. A candid shot of Jake and Lena at a luxury resort. Whispers filled the space, confusion spreading like wildfire. Then came the screenshots of his messages. Him calling me naive, laughing about how I'd never find out. Someone gasped. His boss turned sharply toward him, eyes narrowing. But the true death blow came next. The audio recording played, Jake's own voice booming through the speakers. She wouldn't last a month without me. And just like that, his entire world caved in. The fallout. Jake's face turned ghostly pale, his grip tightening on his glass before he set it down with a clatter. Around him, his colleagues backed away, eyes wide with disbelief. His boss shook his head, already pulling out his phone, no doubt calling security. Lena. She stumbled backward, realization dawning that she wasn't escaping unscathed. She had enjoyed the gifts, the money, the attention, but now she was part of the disaster. Jake spun around, eyes searching the room until they landed on me. I met his gaze with a slow, calculated smile. He opened his mouth, maybe to beg, maybe to explain. But there was nothing left to say. His career was over. His reputation was in tatters. The woman he had thrown me aside for now looked at him with pure disgust. Me. I simply turned, my heels clicking against the marble floor as I walked away. For the first time in a decade, I was completely free. As I walked away from the gala, my heart pounded, but not with regret. Not with sadness. With satisfaction. A deep, quiet satisfaction that settled in my bones like a long overdue exhale. The kind of relief that only comes when you finally let go of something that was never meant to be yours in the first place. Behind me, I could hear the chaos unfolding. The murmur of scandalized voices, the hushed whispers of Jake's colleagues, the sound of his boss furiously demanding an explanation. But the best part? The silence from him. Jake had always been quick with words. Always smooth, talking his way out of trouble, weaving lies so effortlessly that even I had believed them for years. But there was no escaping this. Not when the entire room had witnessed the truth play out in real time. I reached the hotel lobby, taking a slow breath as I stepped outside. The night air was crisp, carrying with it the scent of salt from the nearby ocean. It felt like a fresh start, like the first moment of real freedom I had experienced in years. Samantha was already waiting by the entrance, leaning casually against her car, arms crossed with a knowing smirk. Well, she said, raising an eyebrow. That was something. I let out a short laugh, shaking my head. You think? She pushed off the car and opened the passenger door for me. Come on. Let's get out of here before the explosion fully sets in. I didn't hesitate. As we pulled away from the hotel, I glanced out the window, catching one last glimpse of the mess I had left behind. Through the tall glass windows of the ballroom, I saw Jake, his face still pale, his mouth open as if searching for words that simply wouldn't come. Lena stood beside him, arms folded tightly across her chest, her expression shifting from shock to anger. Good. Let them turn on each other. Let them feel the weight of their own decisions. I turned away. I didn't need to watch anymore. The damage was done. But what I wasn't expecting, what I hadn't fully prepared for, was the sheer depth of the fallout that would follow. The headlines hit harder than I thought. The next morning, I woke up in my apartment. My apartment. The one I had secretly leased a few months ago when I first started suspecting something was wrong. I had told myself it was just a backup plan, a safety net I would never need. Turns out it was the smartest decision I had ever made. Samantha had crashed on my couch, still scrolling through her phone when I emerged from the bedroom. She looked up, grinning. Oh, you're gonna love this. I sat beside her, taking the phone from her hands. The headline at the top of the screen made my stomach flip. High-profile executive exposed in hotel scandal. Caught on camera during gala presentation. I clicked on the article. They had written everything. The affair. The financial misconduct. The leaked emails that someone, thanks to Samantha's very useful tech-savvy friend, had forwarded to the company's entire board of directors. Jake wasn't just jobless. He was untouchable in his field now. His name was plastered across business news sites, his reputation irreparably damaged. My phone buzzed. Another message. Another article link. Another social media post ripping Jake apart. The public loved a scandal, and Jake had provided them with the perfect one. Samantha stretched, yawning. So what's next? I exhaled slowly, staring at the screen. I had spent so much time building up to this moment, but now that it had arrived, there was one question I couldn't ignore. What was next? I had destroyed Jake's life. I had gotten my justice. But was that enough? Or was there still one final move to make? The call that changed everything. I didn't expect to hear from him. Not after everything. But that afternoon as I was sipping my coffee, my phone rang. Jake. I stared at his name on the screen, the memory of his smug "you can't do anything about it" echoing in my mind. Oh, how the tables had turned. I answered. Silence. Then a breath. A shaky, uneven breath. Emily. His voice was hoarse, like he hadn't slept. I need to talk to you. I let the silence stretch. Let him squirm. Talk, I said finally, keeping my tone neutral. I messed up. His voice cracked. I was stupid. God, I don't even know what to say. Everything's gone. My job, my reputation. Lena left. Everyone's turned on me. A bitter smile curled my lips. You don't say. I didn't mean to. He stopped himself, realizing how pointless the words were. I never thought you'd do something like this. I raised an eyebrow. You mean fight back? A deep sigh from his end. Regret. Desperation. I need your help, he finally admitted. And there was the real reason for the call. Not an apology. Not remorse. Desperation. Jake had spent years believing I needed him. That I wouldn't survive without him. But now, as he sat in the wreckage of his own choices, he was the one drowning. And he had the nerve to reach out? To ask me for help? I leaned back in my chair, letting his words hang in the air. Letting him feel the weight of my silence. Then slowly, deliberately I exhaled. Jake, I said, my voice calm even. You were right about one thing. Pause. I could hear the tension crackling through the phone. What? He asked hesitantly. I smiled, the final piece of my revenge clicking into place. I don't need you, I said softly. I never did. And then, before he could say another word, before he could twist the conversation into something it wasn't, I hung up. The final nail in the coffin. The ultimate goodbye. And as I set my phone down, a strange sense of peace settled over me. Jake had taken so much from me over the years. But this moment, this belonged to me. I picked up my coffee, took a slow sip and smiled. For the first time in a long, long time, I was truly free. I placed my phone down, the sound of the call ending still ringing in my ears. For the first time in years, I felt the weight of my past life lifting from my shoulders, dissolving into nothing. The chapter of Jake, of betrayal, of heartbreak, it was closed. And this time there would be no reopening it. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was liberating. A quiet, peaceful kind of stillness, one I hadn't felt in years. Not since before Jake had started to pull me into his web of deception. Not since before I had made myself small to fit into his world. But now that world had crumbled. And I was the one standing on the other side of it, untouched. Samantha walked into the room holding 2 cups of coffee, her expression expectant. Let me guess, she said, handing me one. He called. I nodded, a small smirk curling on my lips. Begged. Her laugh was pure satisfaction. I knew it. They always do. I took a slow sip of my coffee, letting the warmth spread through me. The sun streamed in through the large windows of my apartment, bathing everything in golden light. It felt like a sign, like the universe was telling me I had made it. I had survived. Oh, I had thrived. Jake had lost everything, his job, his reputation, his mistress, his stability. And now he had lost me. The one person who had always been in his corner, always ready to fight for him, always willing to forgive. But that version of me no longer existed. I had fought for myself this time. And I had won. But the real question lingered in my mind, one I hadn't allowed myself to fully ask until now. What happens next? For so long my life had revolved around him, his career, his goals, his needs. Even my revenge had been about making sure he felt every ounce of pain he had put me through. But now that it was over, now that my mission was complete, I was left with something I hadn't expected. A blank slate. I set my cup down and exhaled slowly, staring out the window. Samantha watched me for a long moment before speaking. So, what's the plan? I mean, you just burned your past to the ground. You could do anything now. Anything. The word sat heavily in my mind. He was right. For the first time in a decade, I didn't have to answer to anyone. I didn't have to shape my life around someone else's expectations. A slow smile spread across my face. I think I'm going to start over. Samantha raised an eyebrow. Like a whole new life kind of start over? I nodded. Why not? I have nothing tying me down anymore. I could move to a new city, start fresh, build something for myself without anyone's shadow hanging over me. She grinned, leaning back against the couch. I love that. But first we celebrate. I laughed. Celebrate what? She lifted her cup in a mock toast. Your legendary revenge, of course. You just did what most people only dream about. You didn't just get back at him. You destroyed his entire kingdom. And you walked away without a single scratch. I clinked my cup against hers. To a new beginning. The moment felt surreal. A week ago I had been planning a romantic getaway for my husband, blind to the truth of who he really was. Now I was free, standing at the edge of a brand new future with nothing but possibilities in front of me. And the best part? Jake was never going to be a part of it. The next few days passed in a blur of quiet victories. I watched from a distance as Jake's life continued to unravel. His former colleagues had turned on him completely, distancing themselves as more secrets surfaced about his workplace misconduct. His boss had officially blacklisted him from the industry, making sure no one in their circle would even consider hiring him. Lena. She had disappeared without a trace, scrubbing every photo of him from her social media, moving on as if he had never existed. I almost felt bad for her. Almost. But Jake? He was exactly where he deserved to be. A single text from an unknown number popped up on my screen. Jake, I don't even know who you are anymore. I stared at the message, a wave of something unrecognizable washing over me. Not sadness. Not regret. Just finality. I typed back 2 words. Good. Then without hesitation I deleted the message chain. Jake no longer existed in my world. The next morning I made the decision official. I walked into my lawyer's office and signed the divorce papers, my signature crisp and decisive. I wasn't going to drag this out. I wasn't going to give him one more second of my time. It was over. Completely. Utterly. And as I stepped out onto the street, the sun shining overhead, I felt something shift deep inside me. For so long I had believed that love meant sacrifice, that being a good wife meant forgiveness, that holding on to something, even when it hurt, was better than letting go. But I had been wrong. Letting go was the most powerful thing I had ever done. And now, with nothing but my own future ahead of me, I was ready to embrace it. With a deep breath, I pulled out my phone and opened a new search. A different city. A fresh start. A new adventure waiting for me. Because this was just the beginning.